So I chose to use the show Gilmore Girls for my paper, and I focused on the strong mother-daughter bond that Lorelai and Rory had. They are very close. They're more like friends than they are mother-daughter most of the time. And their relationship is challenged a few times over the series, and so I picked three different instances. Um, and I looked into the stereotypes of the effects of kids from single parent households. And I used the research to analyze and support these scenes. And a lot of them were related to some sort of unbalanced hierarchy. For example, the first scene that I looked into was when Rory didn't want to go to Chilton, which is this nice private school that she got into because she met this new guy at her old school, and once Lorelai found out that it was about a boy, she kind of went back and forth between these roles of mother, where you have to go, and friend, the equal, where it will tell me about the boy. In the end, she recognizes that they had a democracy, or they usually have a democracy, but in situations like this, she has to be the mother and ultimately gets the decision. Um, and this is very confusing for Rory because they are more like peers, which means that they typically rely on one another for emotional support, which usually overrules any kind of hierarchy that would be in a typical family. Um, the next scene that I looked at had to do with authority, and Rory, when she is in Yale, she gets accepted to Yale, and she gets an internship at this newspaper place and is working for a man named Mitchum Huntsberger, who's one of the biggest names in journalism. And they have a review of her work, and he kind of says, "Well, you don't got it," and this is what Rory's been working for her whole life. So this kind of puts her into a shocked and depressed state. That's so bad she actually decides to drop out of Yale. When she tells her mother, she's expecting, that equal kind of um, friend reaction, um, but clearly that's not the case because Lorelai does not approve of this, and it ends up breaking their bond for months. So the research I found about this was that there's a lot that say that children from single parent homes usually have a harder time in education, and Rory usually disproves this because she went to Chilton and was valedictorian and got into Yale, but because of this lack in authority that she gets from home, she kind of takes that and goes into this downward spiral, drops out, and this is where she really struggles with the education part. Um, and there's a theory that says that single parent families, the kids are more prone to depressive symptoms, which include fearfulness and a sense of failure. So Rory fears the future because she has lost the self-esteem in her ability to succeed as a journalist. The last and probably most important conflict between Rory and Lorelai is when Rory loses her virginity to a married man. Lorelai finds out about it, and she's clearly uncomfortable with the situation and tries to remind her that he's married. And Rory is like, "Well, you don't understand the situation. He's not happy, and he loves me." And Lorelai questions her about the implications of her decision, and Rory confesses that they didn't exactly get around to discussing all the details, which is concerning and very uncharacteristic of Rory because she's someone who makes lists and plan things out, and it's very strange to Lorelai that she didn't think to get those details. The stuff that I found to back this up has to do with girls that are in single mother families are at increased risk for early sexual intercourse. And Rory might not have been young, she was 19, but the point of the conversation was whether or not she was ready, so she prematurely made this decision. Um, and there's a study performed on the relationship of self esteem of a daughter based off of her relationship with her mother, and the results were that the more connected a mother is with a daughter, the higher self esteem she'll have. So, in a psychological point of view, it kind of makes sense if you want to apply this. She's very connected with her mother, and she had this self esteem, who, and um, it suggested that higher self esteem people believe that they are worthy of love and support. So, because of this high self esteem she has, um, she feels that she is worthy of Dean's love, even though he was somebody else's husband. So, in the end, it's really interesting because it seems that the only time that they have any issues is when the roles flip from two best friends to mother and daughter. And their best friend Visage almost hinders the relationship because they don't really know how to communicate in times of conflict. Um, but despite this, they're always able to, get through it, and their bond always wins the battle. So it's very interesting to apply these real life stereotypes to this television show because they're very accurate, but in the end, they're much more than mother daughter. They're best friends.